Welcome to the youth session. My name is Jian Xie. I am a board director of the AUC and the president of ACAES USA.
We are thrilled to have such a group of speakers with us today, and they represent a different field, including film, mental health, and technology, and each brings unique insights into supporting Asian American youth. And now let's start with our college and high school students, middle school students. Welcome.
Hi everybody, my name is Shivya Vig. I'm a 6th grader. And something important that I want to share is one day when I was sitting in school and I was in my classroom, somebody said that something smelled, and he said that it was in my direction, and it was from my backpack. It was my Indian lunch. And the teacher told me and me and the teacher, we went outside, and she said that it was disturbing the class, and since it smelled, I should throw my lunch away. I had to throw my lunch away, and I didn't eat lunch for that day. My goal is to make sure that students like me and anybody who has to eat a unique lunch, their teachers are understanding and forgive them and tell the student who said that it was smelling that it was my lunch and I deserve to eat it, even if it smelled a little bit funny. My goal is that everybody, no matter where you are from or where you have been, is to be included.
Awesome.
Asian Cultural Education Society chapter. She's doing a lot of volunteer work. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Reet Randa and I'm an 8th grader at Marlboro Memorial Middle School in New Jersey. I was eager to attend this event as my goal is to spread the message of mental health importance. Some may believe mental health is not significant and can be underestimated, but in reality, mental health shares a triangle with physical and social health, each having its own importance. Me, myself, only learned this in 5th grade in health class. I see real-life examples of poor mental health almost every day in school. Unfortunately, a lot of my friends experience substandard mental health, and I take it as my responsibility to guide them through their problems and help them overcome. I can relate to this as I have had anxiety in the past and found doing simple daily activities challenging. Feelings of fear found a way to control my everyday life. This showed in my grades and my change in attitude. I found ways to control my mind when it got out of control. Yoga and meditation have impacted me and helped me in countless ways. My passion is spreading the awareness of ethical mental health in my peers and everyone around me. Thank you.
Alaska Pacific Island, right?
Salofalava everybody, and hello. My name is Jensi Milena Misamesic, and I am Alaska's first Miss Alaska Pacific Islands for 2024 and 25. I am currently a senior in high school, finishing this year at Raven Homeschool in Anchorage, Alaska, and I stand against abuse, physical abuse, drug abuse, substance abuse, mental abuse, and human trafficking. But today, I would like to discuss crucial topics that impact our lives and our future: immigration, racial discrimination, and injustice. These issues are deeply intertwined with our civil rights and the democratic process that shapes our society. Immigration represents both a rich tapestry of cultures and a significant challenge. It embodies the hope for a better life and the drive for new opportunities. Yet, immigrants often face barriers and prejudice that stem from deeper issues of racial discrimination and systemic injustice. Every day, immigrants contribute greatly to our communities, bringing innovation, diverse perspectives, and a strong work ethic. However, their contributions are sometimes overshadowed by unfair treatment and biased policies. Addressing these challenges is essential to creating a society that values and supports all its members equally. Racial discrimination is a pervasive problem that affects many areas of life. It's not just about isolated incidents, but about entrenched systems that disadvantage people based on race. This discrimination appears in education, where students of color may face disparities in resources and opportunities, in employment, where they might encounter barriers to advancement and fair wages, and in the justice system, where racial disparities can undermine trust and fairness. This ongoing discrimination erodes our collective potential. It limits opportunities and perpetuates cycles of inequality, affecting not just those directly impacted, but all of us. To move forward, we need to confront these issues head-on and work towards systemic change. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you. And I think that's one student sitting in the back, Tommy Louisville. Yeah, it's you. Come here.
Hello, everyone. So I heard everybody's ages, and I was just like, ooh. Because I am an MBA, so a master's in business administration. So I'm in college. So we heard from like a sixth grader, so I was just like, ooh, maybe this is not my age demographic. So that's why I sat back down. But here I am in front of you all. So my name is Tamaliva Salanoa, and I go to the University of Alaska Anchorage. And I work with unhoused populations, and that's my 40-hour job. So a lot of us from our cultures and different walks of life have many hats that we wear. I don't know about you, but a lot of the people that are here in this room have different hats that they wear, and I took that on as well through my family. My matriarchs in my family have done above and beyond for me. So I have taken that in stride and done that as well. Some of it, normal people might call it a workaholic, but I would just say very eager. And so my 40-hour job is that I help unhoused people get into low-income housing. And then my other job is a PCA, patient care assistant. And then my other job, I was just appointed for a fellowship for AAPI outreach for voters. So get out and vote. So there's power in our numbers, and that we have like one of the largest like demographics where we can turn the tide in any vote in any state. And I feel that we just need to tap into that and just encourage our neighbors and those in our communities to get out there and vote and make change. We may not agree from one side to the other. We all have different walks of life, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a vote, we don't have a say. And that's why entrenched in democracy and things like that, and that we can have a voice and we can have a say in how things are. A lot of my aunties and uncles will always say to me, like, this is how it's always been, this is how it's always gonna be. But it's my generation that is now taking it in stride and moving forward and pushing the needle, because now that a lot of you in this room have made the path forward, and now it's us that are the younger generation that are now gonna take all of your hard work and run with it. So thank you.
Thank you so much for everyone. Let's start with the President of United Chinese America, UCA, Happy Xu.
Hi, my name is Haipei Xu, President of the United Chinese Americans. I live in DC and been engaged in the Asian American organizing and politics for more than 2 decades.
Hey guys, I'm Shiv Vig. I work primarily in technology, and also I've been involved with causes from immigration to racism and bullying for the past, I would say, about 10 years.
Hi everyone, my name is Rita Borg-Sexaria. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist based in the DMV in Maryland. At my practice, I'm passionate about destigmatizing mental health for Asian Americans, of course, but also really emphasizing that therapy can be a space for us to tap into our spirituality safely. I'm also a board member for the Hindu American Foundation. Thank you for having me.
Hi everyone, I'm Chanfu Chen. I basically wear two hats. One is that a professor at a university in Pennsylvania. I teach mostly TV production, doing documentaries. The second hat, of course, is a filmmaker, quote unquote. I want to use my skills to tell our stories. Recently, I've been very much interested about issues of Asian hate and mental health. I'm finishing up the first major documentary feature on Asian American mental health. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Now let's start the discussions, starting with the President of United Chinese America. So, give your leadership role in advocating for Chinese American communities. How do you think UCA can play a great role in supporting Asian American youth who are facing racist bullying in schools? What strategies or initiatives can UCA promote to help build resilience and provide a stronger support system for these younger individuals?
Well, I don't have all the answers for that, but I just want to say that as the largest national coalition of Chinese Americans, I came to realize that our next generation or even third generation have faced tremendous difficulties. But difficulties are not primarily from racism or discrimination or all those grievances. I think most of the problem, I think, it comes from internally. How do we adapt to a different culture and country? How do we, especially for East Asian boys, they have a very hard time, and then we're running up against a culture, a dominant, big size male dominant culture. All of that, that is something. And there are other parts of the challenges, like a language, like heritage, culture, identity. All of these are new to us, but also new to America, actually. So I think we should take a little bit more neutral perspective on this, rather than a strong grievances or just look at it through the only lens of discriminations. I think this is, we recognize there is racism in this country, and we realize that there is a kind of more normalized sense of racism in the last few years, but still, I think the biggest challenges come from within. For that part, UCA has been trying to do the organizing Chinese American youth, and by extension, Asian American youth in general. In our biannual convention, we started from 2 years ago to have youth convention. And I'm very proud to report at our youth convention, we have 200 to 300 young people joining us. And our last one just held 2 months ago. And the survey after that, the young people who attended answered on the survey that 84% of them want to come back again. So there are a lot of ways to mobilize our next generation. We just need to really think into how we should spend more time. I really think this is something the Chinese culture is not as strong as the culture in this society, where everybody's trying to think about how to mentor, help, and groom the next generation. But we are learning, and I think there's a lot more we can learn from that.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. For what did the UCA National Youth Convention. we're looking forward for the next one. Now I have a question for the Professor Chang-Fu. As a filmmaker, how do you see the role of media in shaping public perceptions of Asian Americans, particularly in combating or reinforcing stereotypes? What responsibility do filmmakers have in addressing issues like racism and bullying?
Thank you, Jane, for having me and for these wonderful questions. I request several hours to address these questions. No, but I think it's great questions. So I really think that we all know that the media does shape our perception. We learn very little, really, from professors, from our parents. We actually gain most of perceptions, knowledge, understanding of the world without our direct interactions from media. I often say, I know much less to my students than Professor Google, Professor YouTube, and Professor everything else media organizations, right? And we, without knowing direct experience, we form our opinions. So but the onus is on us to make us visible, to tell our stories. And we can play great, it's the right way. We want to fight, we want to make sure whenever we are stereotyped, we see perpetuation of harm, of discrimination. We come up, but on the other hand, we want to tell our stories. That's so important for us to tell our stories, and that's the first step. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Chang. Now, I have a question for Dr. Koida. From your experience, how does discrimination impact the mental health of Asian American youth? What are some of the long-term effects that younger people may face as a result of this experience?
Thank you so much. So I think we just saw an incredible display of the resilience of our youth, of our young people in the face of discrimination, which is really important. And I want to circle back to what really enables that and what as a community we want to keep emphasizing. But when we do talk about discrimination, I think it's really important to see that while some conflict and some experiences of disagreement are a part of childhood, when we're talking about bias-motivated discrimination in particular, we see a huge amount of effects on our youth. When it is rooted in our race, our ethnicity, our religion, and when there's prejudice that is grounding it, it has far bigger impact than other types of bullying. We see that it not only impacts our physical health and experiences and symptoms of stress, such as increased appetite, decreased appetite, changes in weight, a ton, really impacting our sleep and really just taking a toll on our body, taking a toll on our mind, and then it can start to take a toll on our friendships and our connections to our community as well. And we've even seen that this type of discrimination and bullying too can impact truancy. It's very clearly linked with not going to school because we don't want to be in those situations. It's also associated with substance use, right? And substance use in of itself then again is connected to a bunch of other symptoms. So we really don't want to downplay the really detrimental impact that bias-motivated discrimination can have. And we also really want to understand that it's not just talking about it directly that inoculates us and gives us the skills and the ability to rise above it, but also really being able to talk about what it means to tap into the strength that our community has and what we can offer young people.
Thank you, Doctor. Finally, let's hear from Mr. Wage. So I have a question for you. As a computer science engineer and later, how do you think technology and the digital platforms can help combat discrimination faced by youth, especially in school and social settings?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that question. So I think technology can and is actually helping a lot of young students. If I was to categorize it into key pillars, the first one is awareness and education. There are a lot of platforms where there are a lot of trainings to understand concepts like bullying, discrimination, etc. Because sometimes people are unconsciously being discriminated against, right? And I think it's very important to understand that, because sometimes we get complaints that kids get into fights or they are responding in an angry manner. I think the primary reason is because they are not able to understand and process what's happening to them. So that's pillar number one around education and awareness. It can also provide a safe space. I don't know how many of you are aware, but there's a platform known as Student Voice, where you can go in and essentially report your story about discrimination that you have faced as a student. And there are counselors, there are fellow students on the platform who help you understand that and also guide you on how to react to it. I think one of the stories that that we did for one of the schools was essentially implement an anonymous reporting platform for them, and we did data analytics on that data and identified the top 4 or 5 causes on a quarterly basis. What was prompting this behavior, or what were the top 4 or 5 areas under which those incidents were taking place. And then using tools like, there's a virtual reality empathy builder. Again, difficult to comprehend, but that's the world we live in. So we use tools like those to actually drive and develop empathy programs for students. So if you identify in any given school, in every given social setting, on a quarterly basis, what are the top 3-4 issues, and if you drive sensitization drives or empathy drives around those 3-4 concepts, then gradually over the years you start decreasing those incidents. So those are some of the ways technology is impacting in this space.
Thank you so much for sharing. Now we're back to President of the UCA. So what advice would you give to families and schools looking to better support Asian American youth who are experiencing bullying or discrimination? How can UCA work with local organizations to promote inclusivity and anti-bully efforts?
Well, again, I'm not an expert on anti-bullying. I think that is not my strength. And as I said earlier, I want us to kind of, while recognizing there is racism and a lot of discrimination and stereotype and all of that, I think we need to think about different paradigm, a paradigm of from just discrimination, racism, grievances to ownership of the society, of democracy, to showing our achievements in this society and to eventually talk and more about our contribution to this society. Now, specific about quote-unquote advice, I don't have that, but I have 3 points. One is retain your culture and the language if you can. I think that's a beautiful thing, and otherwise, why do you want to come to the United States? It's just for making a few more dollars, right? We need to have some creativity in creating a new culture or even new subculture that is our own, and but is a hybrid of the best from this society and best from our motherland. And second is identity. I think we have to think hard about this identity issues. That is related to the first one, that's culture and heritage. Now, I think we have to let our younger generation know that they are American first, but they are American plus, because they not only have the identity of being American, they also have the identity of being American Chinese, American Indian, American whatever. We have more layers of identity, more subtlety, more layers, and we learn how to navigate all these different identities from early on in your life. In your life, I think that's going to be a huge contribution to you working and have a better, productive life later on in your life. And my last advice is, I have to say that I speak with a lot of stereotypes myself or generalizations. I think the last one is very important. I have come up with this term myself. It's called to build a democratic personality. I really think that Indian and South Asian community has done that much better than East Asians. We're just saying let's close the door within our own big family. What I mean by that is, in order to survive and survive well in this highly competitive, dynamic, open democracy, we have to adopt certain generalized personality that's going to get us an extra mile in this society. And being democratic, I mean democratic personality, I mean you need to be open up, you need to learn to reach out, become your second habit. You got to be, be happy to talk to others, to persuade others, to be actually, it is right, to be a good talker. If I can use a stereotype, I really think that when an East Asian or a Chinese walk into the office, I don't know how impressive that face looks like. There's not an innate smile and all of that, but our Indian friends are very happy, slapping hands everywhere. So, yeah, it is a stereotype, but I think it's a good stereotype. And I think we all need to learn from that. I think that kind of a more generous, contributing, happy, outreaching, persuasive personality is at least what is terribly missing in our East Asian culture. And as long as you have that, I think you can build a big personality, and that's going to get you be a good citizen in this society. Thank you.
Wow, it's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Now let's hear from Professor Chang. So, in your work as a filmmaker, have you explored stories of Asian American youth facing discrimination? How do you believe storytelling can be a powerful tool in raising awareness about these issues and fostering empathy?
Thank you. The last few years, I said that I've been doing this documentary on mental health, but a big part of it is that about the intersectionality between race, ethnicity, identity, discrimination, and mental illness, like trauma, and tied to the life pandemic, the rise of anti-Asian hate. I follow with quite a few stories. And sometimes I was so ambitious that, wow, I want to do a documentary on the dictionary of discrimination for Asian American youth. So I tried to, to look at the structure, look at the characteristics of these different stories, to look at things like the model minority, which forces one dimensionality to the Asian American youth. Look at these things like. By the way, so one of the things I found that discrimination is very persuasive. It has a very powerful narrative. So making Asian youth feel unworthy is our fault. So I follow a story of a young man growing up in the aftermath of September 11th, the Sikh community. He said that what my peers made me feel, there's some defect in me. So that's tell you how much lasting impact, right? And there's a sense of gaslighting we talk about, right? So you feel like, it's your fault, really. Something must be wrong with you, all these things. Then as to how widely powerful to do this is because when we tell our stories and our youth know, no, I'm not alone, right? It's not really my fault. And we can get an understanding of why it is so, right? It's kind of a powerful narrative that put a frame on us. We should be able to resist, should be able to break that vicious cycle, and then come back to my first question, answer to the question, is for us to tell our stories, to live proudly, telling the world who we are, right? The lunchbox moment is not our fault. When you smell of like pizza, you could, that's a smell too, right? That's part of your identity, but kimchi can be our identity too, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
Wow, thank you so much. That's explain the school lunch stories. So now I have a question for Dr. Guida. What advice would you give to parents, teachers, and the school counselors in supporting a child who is facing bullying or discrimination due to their race? How can they foster open communication and provide emotional support? Thank you.
So this is a really great question, but I want to take a step back because discrimination is really important, and the issues that are facing our youth are bigger than that, right? The experience of depression and the experience of anxiety is almost more common than the experience of racism. And I bring that in because there's a common solution to all of this, right? Which is we need to take a step back and understand that the things that are really going to foster our students, our children's overall well-being are really understanding and appreciating their resilience and their strength and their ability to tap into that. So, I've been reading a lot of Jonathan Haidt's work. If you're a parent, or even if you're just involved in young people's lives in this room, I really, really highly recommend reading The Coddling of the American Mind and The Anxious Regulation, because we can see that we've kind of lost touch with our cultures in some ways in moving into being so involved with their kids' lives that we're not giving them some of the natural opportunities they need to really show their autonomy and show their resilience. And so when we're able to trust them more, we actually get more open communication. When we let them take risks, they see how strong they are. Every youth in this room has told us how incredibly resilient they are, right? And if you go and talk to them, I was just talking to Tammy about all this before, and I butchered her name again, and I'm so sorry. But she shared that it was developing her own confidence and developing her self-worth that was such a huge buffer to her and helped her find the community that really saw her and appreciated her for who she was. And that is how she personally really combated the bullying that she was facing and the racism she was facing. And I think this is true for so many of our youth, is that they need to see that we trust them, that we are giving them the skills to develop a lot of pride and strength in their identity, to then be able to feel inoculated against a lot of the forces that are pulling on them, which is like, you know, technology has a lot of benefits, but we also know that social media is really taking a toll on our youth, and we really have to be cognizant about how we're protecting them from that by giving them the confidence they need to be able to take on a world that's almost designed to erode their self-confidence, right? But, you know, I don't want to like say that I'm not directly addressing how to deal with bullying. I do think that really doing the basic things of having a lot of self-confidence and pride in our identity and ability to tap into our strengths and our autonomy is important, but also in order to like handle bullying, we need to be able to talk about how it looks, give them the skills to advocate for themselves and stand up for themselves in these positions, to know that we're here for them, whether we're parents or school administrators or community leaders, to support them and to make sure that anyone who, you know, crosses these boundaries will face consequences, but really, again, letting them lead the way and understanding that they have the skills to advocate for themselves in those situations. And when they don't, and there are those situations, right? I'm not saying we just need to throw our kids out into the wild and trust them to do everything. There are, of course, situations where we need to step in. But even when we're stepping in, we're letting them tell us, like, here's the situation, here's why I trust this person, here's why I don't trust this person. Okay, so we're gonna go talk to the school. We're gonna ask how they're gonna respond before we tell them what happened. And when we trust them, then we're gonna go through this process. And I think that understanding that we're letting their understanding guide us is really important in the specifics of dealing with bullying, but also in the general idea of helping them really develop their resilience and their strength so that they're inoculated against not just racism, but depression and anxiety.
Thank you, Dr. Kweda from the professional.
Because we have seen that as a very powerful tool to spread awareness, right, across especially elementary kids, because I think what we have seen through our surveys and programs is that is where the maximum impact of awareness can be harnessed.
Thank you so much for everyone's speech. It's wonderful. And now each of the speakers have the 2 minutes closing mark. So let's start with the President Happy Hsu. You see, did a lot of works, and we are so grateful, especially for the Chinese community, for the mental health part, and a lot of works. Thank you.
Well, my last few words is that organize. Especially Chinese American community is extremely difficult to organize. Those of you from our community will understand that. But despite of the odds, that we still have to do more, not less. Especially today, Chinese community is under attack, and we are having a big trouble with us, and that's going to maybe last for a generation. So our community has to organize in a fundamentally different way as never before. Second, I would say bring your Asian value with you to your American life. And this is very important. I'm going to bring this beyond use to general politics. I just wonder, those of us here today, have you ever thought about American politics being too extreme, too vicious, and have you ever thought about, boy, this is not the way that we Asian values fit, right? We are more moderating, more harmonious, with that kind of thing. Those values we need to bring to American politics. No shame of them. And that's exactly the American need at this point. Our values in politics. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating. So maybe even I would say we are the last best hope for American politics. Think about, let me just say, among Democrats, I'm more familiar with the Democratic side, less on the Republican side. Who else can speak up against this extremism? Not our white brothers and sisters, not our black brothers and sisters, maybe not even our Latino sisters, but Asians are the last best hope to inject that sense of moderation, balance, yin and yang, and which is increasingly missing in American politics. So think about that. And the last, of course, be a bridge, be a peacemaker, and despite of all the difficulties facing an immigrant, be a happy, smiley, handshaking, proud, contributing Asian. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, very good speech. And now we have the Mr. Wade. Let's see something.
So again, right, I mean, I think in conclusion I can say there are a lot of technological assets at our disposal, but I think it's very important that all of us at our local level, interact with our school districts. I know it's difficult to find time from our day-to-day lives, but my journey started by partnering with the local school districts to A, understand the extent of the problem, and B, to partner with them to provide solutions. So I think I would urge everyone, we have different views, different opinions about politics and a lot of other things, but I think one thing we all can agree upon is that we need to provide a safe ecosystem for our next generation to grow and thrive in. So I would urge everyone to take small steps, make sure you connect with your local school districts and see where you can contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Now we turn to Dr. Wade.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's just incredible. The AUC has created this panel and given us such a chance to talk about mental health and mental health awareness, and we've had our youth speak about it too. In a lot of ways, today in 2024, we have more resources, more awareness, and less stigma than we've ever had. And yet we're seeing higher rates than we've ever seen before of depression and anxiety too. And I think we have to ask ourselves deep questions about why that is and why we're seeing a Gen Z and a Gen Alpha that are struggling so much. And so while, having space to say mental health is important is great, we really need to think about what are the things that are gonna improve the outcomes for our and for us too, right? I imagine every person in this room at some point has felt the toll of being constantly available, of being on a social media apparatus that constantly makes us measure our self-worth, and in a world that feels like it's on fire. So what do we know works? I think all of our traditions and all of our cultures really understand this implicitly. The power of transcending ourselves to be connected to something larger than ourselves is really important. And that is what community is, whether it's defined on the basis of ethnicity or race or religion or a sports team, right? It is so powerful to rise above just thinking about ourselves for a moment to see that we're a part of our community. Yes, we need those cleanses from social media and from our phones, because that's the only way that we actually connect with the person in front of us. And human beings are literally evolved to need that one-to-one right? So we need to do those things, and we need to make sure that we're giving our youth the chance to do those things while really truly respecting, again, their resilience and their autonomy, and giving them the chance to believe in themselves and believe in the strength that their identities, the cultures we all bring, are to be the best versions of themselves.
Thank you.
I already grabbed the mic.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes.
Thanks for your patience. I mentioned that in the last 4 years, I have embarked on a journey of doing a major documentary on mental health. My 2 children kind of was incredible, incredulous about my work. You do mental health, you know what a kind of parent you were to us, right? So to be honest, when I started, right, I asked for scholars and where should we study so many issues, hundreds of stories. Where should I focus? So we decided to look at the issues within our community. We mentioned that the stigma, the sense of shame, and so forth, and our own lack of understanding of, discrimination, bullying, our ability to tolerate, right, and then to move on. And then another framework is without when we carry our Asian American identity, when we walk into society, what kind of issues? So I work on 2 frameworks. And then I always think, what are the couple of things that really stick out? One, from within, I really find out we, the parents, to our youth, with our life, we are so, so strict, so serious, right? And we often don't listen. As soon as our children, our youth, open their mouths to express their ideas or do something, we immediately rush to a judgment, right? We do not allow them to explore, to express themselves, to accept that, right? So that we don't say I love you, right? We don't do that. Then with the other issues. So I asked, one time I asked my daughter, who just graduated in college, what do you think the discriminating mental health? What are the key word that comes to you? She said the sense of belonging. I said, wow. And coincidentally, one of the stories I thought was Michelle Lee, a newscaster at St. Louis TV station during New Year's Eve. She did a 30-second reader about how Korean American celebrate their New Year with dumpling. The next day, she received a message from a white woman saying, "Hey, this is American television, and you said about Korean stuffed dumpling. I feel offended." And I interviewed the Michelle Lee. She said, this is really a sense of belonging. If they do not treat you as belonging, even she was raised in the United States, she was the almost #1 news anchor, they still don't see you belong. That's something. That tied to the whole group experience of Sikh community. I use that one as a group to see the relationship between discrimination and mental health. The whole generation, they used by virtue of wearing the turban, they were associated as being terrorists. Almost all of them, when they were young, many of them, decided to remove their turban to carry it here. And nowadays, to find a positive note, they emerge with a very positive identity. They are very proudly wearing turban or to express themselves as a Sikh American. So I think that's a very good, solution moving forward. Thanks.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, film director and Professor Chang Fu, for sharing your personal story. It's very touching.